So it's 4:15 now, and we are live for session 5 of the virtual conference of Telangana Ophthalmological Society.
Please promote Dr. Vineet Joshi to the podium, please.
Requesting AV team to promote Dr. Pramod.
Right, Dr. Vineet Joshi is here. Okay, I think we can start on time. And okay, so our session is going to be extending excellence innovation in ophthalmology. Professor Daniel Ting is going to be the chairperson. Dr. Suven Bhattacharya is going to be the co-chairman. I'll be moderating. And okay, I'm Dr. John Davis Zakara. Is the AV team controlling the presentation?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So I'll just give a brief introduction of Professor Daniel Ting. Professor Daniel Ting is the director of Singapore Health Service AI program. He is the head of the Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation in Singapore Eye Research Institute, associate professor in ophthalmology with Duke and US Medical School, Singapore. At the global setting, Professor Ting serves in several artificial intelligence executive committees, such as the American Academy of Ophthalmology and STARD UK, and AI editorial boards of Nature Digital Medicine, Frontiers in Medicine, and Ophthalmology. He has published more than 180 peer-reviewed papers in highly prestigious journals such as JAMA, NEJM, Nature, Medicine, etc., and has been recently ranked the world's most influential deep learning researcher across clinical and technical domains in healthcare for the past 10 years by ExpertScape. So I think we will start with the keynote lecture, and then we will go on to introduce each of our panelists as we go across to them. Professor Ting?
Thanks, John, for the very kind invitation to speak. It's a pity that couldn't be there physically, and hopefully there's a chance to actually visit you guys in the future. So I mean, my talk today is AI in ophthalmology. The sky is the limit, as we know. I mean, AI is here. We are currently marching into the digital era. Thank you for the flattering introductions previously. I shall actually move on. This is some of the declaration and interest that I have. And we know currently we are severely hit by COVID-19 worldwide, right? I mean, it started last year in January, and then in March 12th, the WHO has declared this as a pandemic crisis worldwide. And what is some of the impact that we are currently experiencing? First is the increased public and staff exposure risk. We are all healthcare workers, and this is one of the imminent risks that everyone is experiencing at the moment. The increased wait time in the hospital for the patients, the delay of the treatment, and also some of the some of us have actually been deployed to the front lines to help with the pandemic crisis. And what is some of the role of AI and digital technologies that can help mitigate the risk of COVID-19? And just earlier last year, we published this together with Larry, Karine, Victor Zhao, who is currently also the president of the National Academy of Medicine, and Tian Wong, who's also the Vice Dean of Duke NUS Medical School. We actually share a few different ways how the AI and digital technology could actually be helping the public, both the public as well as the hospital systems, to mitigate the risk. And this article has also been quoted by the US CDC in the online website as well. So in the article itself, we actually broken the AI and digital technologies into 4 different big parts, namely the Internet of Things, IoT, big data, AI, and blockchain. So some of the examples that we use during the article is Johns Hopkins COVID-19 dashboard, the AI risk modeling prediction, deep learning on the CT chest imaging to detect the COVID-19 stuff. So basically, we are currently in the 4th industrial revolutions. We've undergone the first 3, namely the steam, electricity, and computing. Currently, we are at the AI and deep learning era. And AI is actually nothing new. It started back in 1950s, and then machine learning terms has been coined back in 1980s. And the new kids in the block really is deep learning that has also already been introduced back in 10 years ago. So if you want to actually learn more about deep learning, I would suggest you to read up this article published in Nature back in 2015 that currently has been cited more than 40,000 times to date. And the three big figures you have to know, they actually are the joint Turing Award winner is the Nobel Prize equivalent of the computing. And basically they are Joshua Bengio, Jeffrey Hinton, as well as Yann LeCun. And they, in the article itself, they actually describe that deep learning should allow all the data to be analyzed by multiple processing layers with multiple level abstractions. So deep learning, if you look at the CNN, convolutional neural network, it can be broken down to three different layers, namely the input, hidden, and the output layer. And how the CNN are different are mainly usually related to the hidden layers. And looking at the layers of the CNN has actually increased tremendously over the last 30 years, all the way from 1989, 7 layers to date. The ResNet can actually go up to 1,000 layers as well. And deep learning in medicine, if you look at the graph, currently I'm serving in a few editorial boards, as John has kindly mentioned just now. We are experiencing the tsunami of papers in different medical, digital, as well as the ophthalmology journals over the past 5 to 7 years. And what are some of the currently unmet needs? Why are people interested to use AI and deep learning right now? And we know people are growing older. We have increased prevalence diseases, and we also have more people requiring medical care as a result of that. Unfortunately, a lot of the places worldwide are experiencing shortages of medical expertise, and some of the countries, again, the medical costs are also increasing. So just taking diabetes as an example, by 2040, 1 in 10 people worldwide would have diabetes. That equates to about 640 million people worldwide. And if you look at the places like Africa, and by 2040, there will be 24 million people would experience diabetes. And just looking at one country specifically, say in Zambia, because we did actually publish a paper that I will share later in the PowerPoint presentation. Looking at Zambia, which is one of the African countries, and they have the ratio between the doctors versus the population, which is 3 to 1 million population. We are talking about general practitioners. We are not even talking about general ophthalmologists, retina specialists to screen for diabetic retinopathy. So, I mean, if they can't even look after the general health, how do you even expect people to screen for the eye, looking for complications as a result of diabetes? Yeah, so this is major, and this is massive, and this is happening right now. And the AI applications, deep learning application in medicine included some of the dermatology field in using the deep learning to detect skin cancer from the skin photograph. They also included some of the applications in detecting the lymph node metastasis, in detecting patients with breast cancer and atrial fibrillations. And just a few years ago, together with a few AI experts worldwide, together with the Google DeepMind, both the DeepMind and the Google AI Health groups, we have published a few papers on summarizing some of the AI and deep learning technologies in different eye applications. It was published in BJO and PRER for those of you who are interested to read. And literally, I mean, the major eye conditions such as diabetic retinopathy, glaucoma suspect, age-related macular degenerations, ROP, retinopathy of prematurity, using both fundus photographs and OCTs as well. These are some of the selected papers. There's lots of papers, and this is just some of the earlier papers, within the first 1 to 2 years of the deep learning applications. Is the first one is the Gushan et al. That was the first paper that has actually advertised for the use of deep learning within the ophthalmology field, followed by our paper looking at how we should, test for generalizability of AI for different data sets. And then comes the OCT AI papers from Google DeepMind, and then also the first AI paper that has also resulted in the approval of US FDA on DR screening. And I just wanted to actually share a little more how we could actually read AI papers, because we've been asked to read so many papers and there are more coming out. How can we critically appraise some of the AI papers? And really, that would actually break down to about 8 different aspects. So the first one is this study really looking at something that really matters, the market size? What clinical unmet need are we talking about? And literature review, I mean, have they actually done enough due diligence to look at the AI system already present in the literature? And what is the value add of the proposed AI system they're talking about? What are some of the core components of an AI system? So basically, usually they would split the training, validation, and the testing data sets into 3 different components. And then what are the clinical data sets they are using? And then what are the technical network they're using? And then what makes a good training testing data set? I often get asked, how many images are deemed to be enough? And can I train an AI system with the data sets that I have? And breakdown of the patients and images. So the short answer is it depends on the clinical questions. And then also it depends on the cleanliness of the clinical data sets. And what makes a good reference standard? How is the training data sets being captured? And what are the types of the graders, the experience of the graders, the numbers of the graders? And when we actually do AI and a big data, we really want to avoid a phenomenon called the garbage in, garbage out phenomenon. So, and what would be some of the appropriate machine learning and deep learning techniques? So it really depends. If you use the clinical data, there will be a conventional statistical approach, machine learning. And if it's an image only ones, usually people right now will use the deep learning genetics data. Right now, we are still currently in a machine learning. Of course, we are also looking at some of the deep learning approaches, in our lab. And multimodal approaches also is a good way to combine all the different data input that we have. And what makes an operational flow of an AI system? So what I mean by the operational flow here is that once the image comes into the AI system, what are the processing steps? In the factory itself, if you can imagine the patient's journey in the hospital system, once the patient comes into the doorstep of the hospital, what are some of the things that they have to undergo until the moment that they step out from a hospital system? So this is what we call the operational flow. And when we actually assess for clinical diagnostic performance, what are some of the things that we need to look at? US FDA has actually published, the AI should be treated as a medical device, so SAMD guidelines. And we need to make sure that the testing results is consistent with the intended purpose used. So if you were to use the AI system in such a manner, you have to test it in exactly the same manner to get the same result, to get the results. So if your results is good within the intended use environment, yes, please go ahead and use it. That is how US FDA is going to, appraise your AI system for. And I just wanted to highlight that AUC sensitivity, specificity, together with the 95% confidence interval is always very important, not just reporting the AUC, because AUC doesn't really tell us much things. It doesn't tell us the operating threshold that you're trying to fix. And, again, the intended use environment as well. And first example, the Gushan et al., they actually were the first one, the Google papers. They published, that back in 2016, looking at referable diabetic retinopathy using more than 100,000 images graded by more than 50 US ophthalmologists to do it. So their paper actually shows that the AI system is robust. In fact, the AUC was more than 99% using the publicly available data sets. And the second example by Michael Abramov looked at 900 patients with the prospective, done in the prospective clinical trial manner. And the AI system is actually compared against the reference standard that is actually graded in the reading center based in Wisconsin. Basically, the diagnostic performance itself, the sensitivities is hitting the 87% and specificity about 90%. This result has actually exceeded their pre-test, the outcome that they set. So hence, US FDA has actually given them the approval. And the third example, is coming from the Morpheus and Google DeepMind collaboration. So basically, this paper was published in Nature Medicine back in 2018. And looking at the OCT is actually robust. It's shown to be robust enough. If you look at the bottom left graph, so the blue is OCT only, and then the yellow is OCT plus fundus and nodes. And basically, if you see the white, the yellow line going across the bars, so basically this is the AI performance, and the AI performance actually is shown to actually be comparable with the most of the graders, if not actually is better than 6 different graders that's been shown in expert 1 to 8. Yeah, so right now they are actually looking at how they can implement this into their workflow. I just wanted to share some of the AI stuff that we've done in our lab over the past 5 to 7 years. So basically, this is a deep eye study. The Selena Plus is termed as Singapore Eye Lesion Analyzer. We actually built this about 6 to 7 years ago, looking at how the deep learning system can be used to detect referable diabetic retinopathy, VTDR, glaucoma suspect, and AMD. And the paper was actually published in JAMA back in 2017. So this is multi-center studies involving different countries, different data sets, different races, different retina cameras, and different reference standards as well. We used VGG19 back then because it was one of the most popular, the network, and then, but the lab also customized it based on our own needs for using our data sets. The data sets consist of more than 500,000 of images with the DR, glaucoma suspect, AMD, ground truth, and we show that the diagnostic performance is clinically acceptable. So AUC, both AUCs all AUC sensitivity and specificity were more than 90%. And this was actually been publicized and also been mentioned by our Deputy Prime Minister Heng, and also was included right now in the National AI Strategy, the program. And we have since obtained the European CE mark as well as the Singapore HSA. And right now the AI system is being used in more than 20 countries worldwide. And we also further actually done a health economic analysis looking at how the AI system can work in a hybrid manner, in a semi-automated fashion, as well as a fully automated fashion. So we actually run the Markov model on this, and this is what we found. So basically, to our surprise, the semi-automated version actually yielded the best health economic outcome, followed by fully automated one, and then the manual. And this result was actually published in the Lancet Digital Health back in 2019. And right now we are running the 6 prospective clinical, the observational studies, looking at how involving 6 different primary eye care clinics throughout the Singapore island. And these were some of the developmental milestone and the roadmap that we have done for this paper. And right now, this is our reading workflow. So for patients, actually any patient that comes into our reading center undergo 2 tiers reading by the graders. So what we are trying to do is to actually replace the tier 1 with the fully automated manner. With those who actually identify as a referable DR, then they will actually undergo the secondary gradings by the graders. So right now, the pilot results, this is some of the description, basically involve more than 25,000 eyes, 49,000 images, and then these are breakdowns of some of the DR severity level. And if we actually look at stage 1, if the software is run as a fully automated version, it was consistent with our JAMA publication, which with more than 90% AUC sensitivity. And if you actually run it as a secondary and a semi-automated fashion, we actually, while retaining the sensitivity, the specificity actually gone up to 99 to 100%. So looking at Zambia, we also actually wanted to test how the AI could actually be used to help with the low to middle income countries where the retina screening experts, DR screening expertise are not there. So basically, we have used the upgraded system right now, VGG and the rest and the ensemble network. And then we found that the AUC sensitivity and specificity, again, is actually consistent with our previous publications as well. these are some of the heat map that illustrates the DR lesions on the fundus photos. So right now, my lab is also looking at how we can actually tap on the blockchain and space technology, the 4G and the 5G, and even the 6G is coming out right now, as we know, to actually encrypt some of to provide some of the AI transparency. So we have also, just earlier this year, we published one paper in Lancet Digital Health, looking at how the blockchain platform can be used to regulate the AI, the data sets transfer, the AI model transfer, as well as the AI testing results. And we actually do use this and we also publicized one of the deep learning system in detecting myopic macular degeneration as well as high myopia. And this is just an overall architecture that we use the blockchain to regulate some of the processes. And then we use a Hyperledger, which is a hybrid of the public and the private blockchain platforms to build the data transfer, AI model transfer, as well as the testing results validation. So, I mean, despite all the great, the technology, the hype, the excitement, the interest, we also know that there's some unanswered areas within the AI field: safety, technical, business models, medical, legal aspects. Some of the things that we are currently still, debating and to in fact exploring with different parties. And in fact, some of the AI scientists, the top AI scientists, the Ali Rahimi, when he was actually giving his keynote, he still say that the AI deep learning is still alchemy. Why is it alchemy? Because we do not know some algorithms work and why some other don't. And there's no rigorous criteria really to choose one architecture over the other. And then in deep learning, some of the features that are deemed to be really important for the clinical field, sometimes when you actually stripped it off, it may actually the algorithms work better. So many of us actually feels like we are operating on an alien technology. That's why he actually said during the keynote. So I think the future, I just wanted to also share that quantum computing is also something that's been published in Nature. So I mean, for those of you who are actually really interested in the computing stuff, please go and read up. So basically, if you think GPU is already working really fast compared to your CPU, now we also have the Sycamore processor that is a quantum computing. How is it scary? So basically, if you actually look at a classical supercomputer GPU, something that the GPU takes 10,000 years, the quantum computing can take 3.5 minutes to actually sample. So, I mean, are we talking about Industrial Revolution 5.0? Are we talking about what about the cybersecurity threats that we are actually experiencing? So those are the things that I wanted to leave everyone to have a think. And I want to thank the organizer once again for the kind invitation to speak. This is some of the contact details that I have. Please reach out. And yeah, so I mean, I just wanted to quote, the Winston Churchill, one of the very famous quote: "Never let a good crisis go to waste." Thanks very much for the kind intention to listen.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an informative talk. Artificial intelligence and machine learning are currently, as you said, alchemy and magic to most of us around here. We don't really know what it is. We are afraid of it. We firstly don't trust it. We are afraid it will take our jobs. So what is your take on this? Will AI steal our jobs? Will AI be turning evil at some point? Are the movies Terminator and other movies which predict evil AI, are they true?
Yeah, so I think we are not talking, we are not actually at the Skynet, the Terminators kind of era right now. I think that the concern that you mentioned, a lot of people have a similar concerns across the domains: medical, non-medical, technical, and so on and so forth. But I mean, my take is this: AI, I think, is here to help. And if we can actually build AI in the right way, right? So I mean, the context in the right way, and so long as the data governance are being maintained, data security, the stuff, and then patient consent, the things are actually being used in a proper manner, ethical manner, no different from how we actually, build any medical device or, do any clinical trials in a healthcare setting. I think AI can actually be changing a lot of the scopes that the human mankind would really hate to do. How many of us would like to stay in front of a computer to grade like 10,000 millions of retina images? There's no DR. So these are some of the like very simple repetitive work that the AI can actually take over. In fact, they could actually better position our time to actually focus on the patients that really need treatment and intervention. For instance, can you actually deploy this, to screen for patients in Zambia, for instance? Yeah, sure. I mean, next day you can do it. But again, it's not as simple as that when you want to deploy AI in the less privileged countries like Africa countries, because when after you screen, you also have to understand, do I have enough facilities or doctors to treat? Because if you don't, then then is it ethical to screen without having the capability to actually treat the patients? So all these ethical things, when you also have to come into play, whether they have any IT infrastructure. I mean, is it enough? I mean, the 5G, 4G telecommunications, I mean, is it enough to actually deploy in the cloud setting? I mean, there's a lot of the careful planning actually needs to come in play when you actually want to deploy the AI, the solutions. I mean, in fact, one of the things that you actually mentioned, Terminator and things, but I think AI ethics is one of the also growing concerns among the people. And if some of you have Netflix, please go and watch The Social Dilemma, right? I mean, once you start swiping your Facebook and things, right? I mean, or your Instagrams, you always have these things that actually come out. So those are the interesting things that I will actually encourage the audience to read. Yeah.
Other panelists, do you have any questions?
Yes, John. May I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Dr. Ting, for an excellent presentation and overview of AI applications in ophthalmology. What is your take on applications of explainable AI in the context of newer technologies like capsule nets and the newer concept which is coming that probably a lesser relevant data kind of decreases the noise and might actually enhance the working of an algorithm, like introducing some things like information bottlenecks. What is your take on it? And this is in context to Professor Ulas Bakhchi's some of the papers which he published for AI in COVID-related radio diagnostics.
Thanks, Vinay, for the questions. Explainable AI. So there's two parts of it, right? There's a explainable AI. There's a capsule net that you actually mentioned. How do we actually tackle small data sets? The information bottlenecks. I think these are some of the actively being research areas. First, I answer the first question as a start. So explainable AI, in my mind, is currently still not at the mature stage. I mean, why do I say that? Because if you say you build like 5 to 10, you use the 5 to 10 different, explainable AI techniques to actually run the retina imaging. So how we actually build the explainable AI is related to it's something like a post hoc analysis. Once you build a CNN, and then once you build on the data sets, and then you will actually build the explainable part. And if you actually use, say, soft integrated gradient method, soft, attention map or occlusion test, they'll yield different results. When you actually look at the heat maps and stuff on the picture, it's like, oh, what's going on? And in fact, they will highlight some of the irrelevant picture. Then people say, oh, is that actually is the AI system unraveling some of the the unknown part to the computer science, the medical world? So I mean, are they noise? Are they the real noise? Are they the fake noise? Right? So those are the things that right now no one can actually answer that part. So explainable AI right now is one of the things that is going really hot in the imaging world, and also in terms of data. What about how do we explain the data-driven the algorithms that's been built, say random forest or the SG boost and things on the more on the data analytics stuff. So that's one. And how do we handle the small data sets? That's something that you actually mentioned as well. Transfer learning is one of the quick way to actually do it, right? Pre-trained model. So all the off-the-shelf models are pre-trained. And how do we use GAN? Can we use GAN, generative adversarial network? Can we use the federated machine learning to actually encourage the cross-border interaction between the different countries? So those are the few things that's actually being described. And CapsuleNet, I personally have no experience in that, but EfficientNet is one of the things that actually reduce the less layers of a CNN to actually handle the data. And then, I mean, the good thing is, I mean, you don't actually need to spend so much of processing powers. The time is reduced and stuff. So there's lots of different technical stuff is actually happening in the both technical and the clinical world. And yeah, I mean, that makes it so fascinating and exciting for me. Yeah.
Sorry, I had a call. I think we will have, that was a good explanation. I didn't listen to the remaining of the explanation. Next, we will have Dr. Suven Bhattacharya, who is my super senior from college. So all of you would know Dr. Suven Bhattacharya as the inventor of the BHEX pupil expander. It was initially called the Bhattacharya ring, but it is too difficult for everybody to, learn the name. And I always felt that whenever I see some scientist's name which is too difficult to memorize and learn, I always think, why was it not a simpler name? So I think thinking about that, he changed the name to BHEX, easy to remember. He has patents for the BHEX globally. He was awarded the top innovator and gold medalist and the DST Lockheed Martin India Innovation Growth Program in 2016. He won the All India Ophthalmology Society P. Shivareddy International Award for 2019, Best Paper of Session Award at ASCRS 2014, Colonel Rangachari Award for Best Overall Paper and Sante Vision Award for Best Cataract Paper at the All India Conference 2014, International Hero Award at the All India Conference 2017 and 2018. I think I need to take a drink of water to continue, but there are more. He was a
let's get on with the presentation.
Sure, sir. So there are too many laurels to list. Let us start with the presentation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, John. Thank you, and Telangana Ophthalmology Society for the very kind invitation. Let me get on to my presentation. Yeah, so we start with, any innovation starts with a great idea. So what's next? I'm Suven Bhattacharya, and I am the inventor of the BHEX, as John said. Let me just take this to one. Yeah. So, and I'm going to talk to you about what do we do? Invent, patent, or commercialize. So doctors are full of great ideas, but are often unable to take an idea to fruition. So some doctors and mentors in India also believe that's unholy and sinful for doctors to gain financially from their ideas, but it's okay for the industry if it gains many times more. Now that's very contradictory. So let me assure you, doctors have as much right as any other citizen to earn from their ideas and invention, and intellectual property is an asset like any other house, land, property, stocks and shares, and can be monetized and traded. So we need certain standard checks in place. Is it a great idea, first of all? And if it is so, what kind of great idea? What to do, how to do, and when to do. So the first thing any of us would do when we have a great idea is talk, talk, and talk. And that's precisely what we should not be doing. We should curb our enthusiasm. Don't discuss, don't present, don't publish for some time. If this is your top secret confidential idea, hold on to it. Otherwise, you're going to have that kind of expression on your face. So, and it would render your idea non-patentable because it was already in the public domain. So 3 important guidelines: talk intelligently, deal methodically, work diligently, because our resources are very, very precious. So is it really a great idea? How will you test it? Be ruthlessly critical. Save yourself time, energy, and money, and emotion. So what is a good idea? What is a great innovation? What is desirable to the users? What is possible with technology, and what is viable? Remember, desirable, possible, and viable. Is it a new great idea? Well, nobody wants to reinvent the wheel. But then you can reinvent the wheel. Look at this, shark wheels. Did not get a patent, but commercially successful. So you can work around and get some mileage. Is it a new great idea? Simplest. We are all used to review of literature, Google patent, why patent scope, USPTO, impasse. Look at granted, non-granted, pending, abandoned, all kinds of literature. Non-patent literature, again, is very useful. There's a host of literature that we are all used to. The bottom line is review, review, and review literature. Even if you don't plan to patent, you will save yourself time, energy, and embarrassment. These are some of my patent certificates, the US and the Indian one. These are the countries in which we hold our patents, 16 countries. And of course, again, trademark is also another tradable intellectual property. So it's a great idea, wonderful, but is it technically feasible? That's the next question that you need to ask yourself. Your current technology must be able to commercially produce it consistently, safely, and cost effectively. You need to have that kind of foresight and see, yes, that this will be feasible. Prototypes may be expensive to start with, that's okay. Now, should you patent? Now, that's a very important question because it costs a lot of money. So is your great idea viable in the marketplace? So the best innovation would be the best innovation to patent would be one which could be commercialized. No, regardless of whether it is, you get a patent or not, you at least earn your money and you can foot the bills. So what kind of great idea are you looking at? Is it really, what is patentable? So if it's a discovery of an existing structure, if it's a technique, and if it's a new application of an existing device, at least in India, a technique is not patentable. So these are not patentable. Publish a paper or a video, get your credit, and forget about it. If it's a new device designed with utility, if it's then it could be a variation without novelty and inventive step, you're not going to get a patent, so publish. If it's a de novo design with novelty and inventive step, or it's a variation with novelty and inventive step, then you must consider patenting if it has a commercial viability. So that's the BHEX. Now, if you look at all the previous Malugian ring and the eye ring, the scrolls, channels in the pockets were all straddling the pupil margin. Whereas in the BHEX, the notches and the flanges are there so that the pupil margin straddles the notch. So, and how did we get this? We got it by bringing the entire device into a single plane. So there must be novelty, there must be non-obviousness, there must be utility and enablement. That means a person having some amount of knowledge about this and appropriately trained should be able to make it. Now, this is important, what to do, how to do, and when to do. Let's say you don't want to spend too much time, money, and effort, and you don't want financial gains, or you want financial gains. If you don't want financial gains, publish as early as possible and get credit. If you want financial gains, discuss with the industry, at least sign a non-disclosure agreement, because otherwise you might end up with a raw deal and your idea may even get stolen. If you want to bring the idea to fruition and succeed, irrespective of financial gains, but have a limited will to spend time, effort, and money, secure the idea by filing a patent. If you can't spend time and money, effort, can spend time, effort, but not money, file a patent, prove the concept, and we'll come to that later. And if you're willing to do whatever it takes to bring it to fruition, we'll again come to that later. So if you have limited will, pitch to the industry or anyone who may be interested and can take it up. If you can spend time but not money, apply for a grant, pitch to investors, get money from other sources. If you're willing to do whatever it takes, well, you have to be an inventor and an entrepreneur, and you have to be bitten by the bug like me. Now, if you look at government grants, concept financing is no longer available. That's past. You have grants and funding, but you have to work hard for it. Make every word of your application count. There's a very simple calculation. If it's a rupees 50 lakh grant with 500 words, each word is worth 10,000 bucks. So that's how much you need to work for that grant. So these are the various authorities who can grant you. And like John said, IIGP was what I won in 2016. It was a good exercise. Private funding, you got angel funds, venture capitalists, but then you'll have to part with the equity or profits. It brings in professional management and business strategies. That's useful. They certainly look for whether it is an investable venture or not. Proof of concept is something which we must have in place because nobody's going to put in money unless there's a proof of concept. So you must try to have a small pilot study, develop a prototype, and kind of be able to prove to people that, yes, it's worth pursuing. Patent filing is not very expensive in India. The fee as such is not a big deal, but then it's the patent attorney fees, which is expensive. And you must know about your stuff in great detail because self-help is the best help. And even with your patent attorney, you'll have to work very closely for them to kind of help you go around the problems that come up. So that's a kind of patent filing chart, but forget about the rest. Remember this area over here, the complete specifications and provisional specifications. You can always start with a provisional application without any claims. It doesn't cost much, but you get a priority date, and then you have time to do the rest of the spade work. PCT patent filing is something which secures your entry to 153 countries right now, and you get 2.5 years to decide which countries to choose, because this is going to be very expensive. You can, I mean, kind of 4 to 5 lakhs per country, if that's the cost. So, and if this is 0.0, this, you have about 30 months, that's about 2.5 years. When you file the same thing in your patent office, one set of fees, one language, one set of claims, and you can still have access to 153 countries. That's a huge, huge advantage. Now, success in business and success in science require two different skill sets, as most of us would know. So it depends upon your business acumen. If you're good at it and you can take it forward, well and good. Otherwise, we need to take help of others, because there'll be issues about it. Whether you want to have a startup or your own or a surrogate one, your production facility, regulatory compliance, business costs overheads, I mean, equipment costs. So cost of bringing a product to the market is a lot more than the production cost. The cost of an IOL is only $2 for the material, but the cost of production is huge, and the R&D is a different game altogether. So remember, innovation is that tiny cusp between customer desirability, business viability, and technical feasibility, and you have to be right over there in that sweet spot. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, sir. That was very informative. And I am still thinking about the fact that you said patent filing is very cheap. I think you said $1,700, or was it?
Bucks, 1,750 rupees in India. That's the official fee, if you do it yourself.
750 rupees. So all the young innovators listening to this, please note that it is for a provisional application. If you do it yourself, it is only 1,750 rupees. So you go to the Indian patent filing website. The information is there. Patents, copyrights, trademarks, all of them come under that. So you just go and do what you need. Okay. And as sir said, when you get an idea, if you want to commercialize it, if you want to patent it, that is one way. If you want to do the open source, do it yourself route, that is another way. So do you have any suggestions for knowing, like finding a mentor so that you can go with an idea, go to somebody and proceed? How do you go about that?
Good question, John. Now, there are some institutions, places called TBIs, Technology Business Incubators. You see, you can take help of these. They have a hand-holding facility. You see, so they will guide you as to how to go about getting a proof of concept, maybe, but mostly you need a proof of concept before you go there. So funding, IP, everything is kind of helped. In fact, LVP has a TBI, if I'm not wrong. So there are a lot of institutions, medical and non-medical. Like I was incubated over here in IIEST, which is in Howrah over here, which is B College Shipur earlier. So that you need some kind of guidance sometimes.
Dr. Vineet, Dr. Bijuraju, would you like to add? Would you like to ask anything?
Yes, as Dr. Suvin, that was a fantastic presentation, and thank you for giving us the roadmap of applying for a patent. Yes, we have an in-house incubation center, especially by the engineering group, and it really helps in planning your whole scale of innovation. Now, what I wanted to actually ask Dr. Suvin was, like, how do you tackle situations when because in many countries they apply for a very broad patent category, so many times you kind of end up infringing on some of their aspects with your product, so defending those becomes a bit difficult when it comes to country basis. So like did you experience this, and how to tackle this? Because applying in India is probably a bit easier to go ahead with, but when
Yes.
it comes international, it's difficult.
Please
Good
pardon the
question again,
interruption,
Dr.
Dr. John. Maybe we can summarize this answer in one minute. Thank you.
Yeah, so there will be an objection from every country. Be assured of that. Okay, India is to get a, you have to use something called an ISR or in ISA, Indian International Searching Agency. India is fortunately an ISA now. It wasn't there when I applied. So, and it cost 10,000 rupees. It's not such a big deal. But thereafter, when you enter, every country, every examiner is going to object. Be prepared for that. It's not going to be a cakewalk. So you will have to defend your patent at every stage. You have to justify, but the examiners are open to arguments. If you place the arguments correctly, I had an objection from an examiner in every country. Sometimes it went for 3 to 4 rounds and it becomes very expensive there because the patent attorney fees is always there. You do this, you do the legwork, the attorney charges the fee.
Thank you,
sir. So were all the objections valid objections, or they just randomly put some objections?
Oh, some of them are just to object.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I think we will go on to the next talk. Next talk is by Dr. Prithvi Chandrakant. I met Dr. Prithvi Chandrakant while I was doing my fellowship in Arvindai Hospital, Pondicherry. He came for a short observation there. So at that time, he was in second year MBBS, and he wanted to always, look after his hobby of photography. So I suggested to him to find a way to mix ophthalmology and his hobby together, and he has now developed some do-it-yourself devices for photographing the eye from the anterior segment to the posterior segment and the angles in different ways in very, very low cost methods. He is currently a retina fellow at Arvind Eye Hospital, Coimbatore, and he has several papers, publications, and won the best publication award in IJO in 2019, presentations in several national and international conferences. Over to you, Dr. Prithvi. I think you need to reshare your screen, Prithvi.
Thank you, John, sir. I'll go right to the screen. Oh, okay, sorry.
The screen just shared and then, okay, now it's coming back. Yes.
Yeah. So
go ahead.
Let's go with the video.
Doctor, do not optimize the screen sharing. Otherwise, there will be a disturbance in the video.
Okay. Yeah.
The innovative resident. There are three terms that sound similar but are very different from each other: discover, invent, and innovate. While discover means to obtain sight or knowledge of something for the first time, invent means to produce for the first time through the use of imagination or ingenious thinking and experiment. Innovate means to make changes in something established, especially by introducing new methods, ideas, or products. So what is innovation? It is an idea that has been transformed into practical reality or process to bring new ideas, new methods, or new products to an organization. Let's take an age-old example. If not for innovation, we would be exchanging monetary medium via barter system. In ophthalmology, let's take a few basic examples. Diagnostic innovations in the field of refraction led to the introduction of smartphone refractometers from the plain mirror retinoscope. The evolution of cataract extraction from couching to femtosecond laser due to the innovation in the surgical techniques. Now the question is, why do we need innovation? Innovation is important to us and the entire society as it can be time-saving, provide ease, better quality, affordable, accessible, and improved version altogether. The important questions to the smallest of the idea would be, will it make a positive difference? The main aim of innovation is to solve a real problem or an unmet need for the development and benefit of the society. How can we innovate? It is by a thorough understanding through direct observation of what people want and need in their lives and what they like or dislike about the way particular products are made. All we need is to find a problem statement with an inquisitive mind and work on it further. So now, where to find the problem? We can find problems everywhere around us, but it is important to address the right problem, which can benefit both the doctor and the patient. The problem should address a large audience and should solve real problems. As a resident, when we start fresh, our inquisitive minds can search many such problem statements easily in our daily lives, work which seems to be often ignored by others who have made peace at these common problems around. Don't look for a great idea, look for a good problem. When should you innovate? There is no particular date or time to innovate. One doesn't need any extra time to search a new problem and find a solution to it. It's a part of our daily life, and just by focusing on the real problems, you can innovate the simplest of solutions. So let's stop giving excuses to ourselves and be in constant search or thought of it. Because these problems are right in front of us, we just need to fill the gaps of the jigsaw puzzle. Now for the main question, who can innovate? The answer is anyone and everyone. We are all different in our own way, have our own different creativity or art of doing things. We all have certain unknown qualities which we need to find out. Every person will have a different approach to a certain problem, and that's where all of us can innovate in their own possible way. People who want to innovate need to make it a priority. It should be a skill combined with a will. Few important lessons that I have learned during my journey of innovation. First is to be yourself. Second, stay away from negative people who would always laugh at your ideas. Be surrounded by positive people who are going to lift you higher. Mentoring is important. It could be anybody, like it could be your parents who will support you, your friends who will push you for doing new things, or your teachers who can guide you with their expertise. So always think positive, stay away from negativity because they will always hold you back. Talking about my journey into innovation, I was always passionate about photography and was that inquisitive kid since childhood who would just want to create something useful from waste products, which would be lying unused. I loved to create something new and show it to my friends when I was in school. Then I met my mentor, my friend, John Sir, during my post-graduation, who saw that I was just focusing on my career and not doing things which I was really passionate about. He suggested me to introduce my photography skills into ophthalmology and create something which would make me enjoy my work even more. This led to my 3 innovations, which were all related to photography and smartphones. Those are flash to treasure red cam, anti-segment photography with intraocular lens, and IOL scope. They were all do-it-yourself, cost-effective, innovative products from just a simple idea. These were all published under the innovation section of Indian Journal of Ophthalmology. IGO has published many such amazing innovation articles and are perfect for any beginner to drive their inspiration from. Simple innovations which gives the best results are the greatest innovation. If the product is good enough, then you should go forward with patency and also get it published in a reputed journal. I would like to say, innovations are the bricks laid by each one of us to lay a foundation that will turn into a beautiful monument in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Prithvi. That was an interesting presentation and very well animated. I would like to add that Santosh Hanavar sir would attest to this, that the IGO opened up the innovation section just because of Dr. Prithvi. It was because he kept sending so many innovation articles that they had put a separate section for him. Any of the panelists would like to ask questions or comment? Dr. Biju Raju, so this is, I think, photography is one of your passions as well,
Yes.
and do-it-yourself RedCam was one of your passion projects.
Yeah, I think Prithvi, what you said is absolutely right. If you find something that is useful in your practice, it's going to help somebody. It's great to take it forward, and when it takes shape, then the satisfaction that it gives you is tremendous, because those things that you make, if you are going to buy a commercial one, it's gonna burn a big hole in your pocket, and where you are going to put all your resources from your brain and get a new thing. That's a great concept, and yeah, you're on fire, man. You're going ahead with a lot of passion. All the best, and I'm glad that John was there to give directions. I mean, that's what a mentor should do, actually. I mean, I'm at such a young age. If John has been able to do it, I'm sure he's going to help several youngsters, several people, and he has also been a good source of encouragement for all of us. Right? Good. Keep going. Keep going. All the best. Yeah.
I would like to say that if it was not for John, sir, then I wouldn't have been in this direction.
Yeah. You need somebody to, it's like the GPS. You need to get you on track back on. I said, yeah. Thank you, John.
Thank you. Anyone else? So I think Dr. Prithvi has gone the route of what Dr. Biju Raju has done, that is open sourcing the innovations, that is put the ideas on a journal so that others can try and replicate that. So for some ideas, you might want to do that. Some ideas you want to go for a patent. So when you get an idea and you want to work on it, these are the different paths that you might take. Dr. Vineet Joshi, do you want to add anything related to this?
I totally agree with you, John. Prithvi, that's a really heartiest congratulations to you for the scale of work that you have done. And what I really like about the DIY part is we had a similar experience when we designed the OS visor when on the second day of lockdown when it was announced in Telangana. And we kind of made it DIY and gave it to the hospital staff when nothing was around at all for personal protection, no masks, no gear. And we gave it to the police and the press release. And I totally agree with Dr. Raju. The satisfaction it gives, it's amazing. And the DIY really helped because there was a vendor in Mumbai, they scaled it up and they actually sold it which we couldn't do at our level. So great way, Prithvi. Really nice to see the work you're doing. Best of luck.
So thank you, Dr. Prithvi. Next, Dr. Vineet Joshi will be talking, and I'm going to introduce him. So Dr. Vineet Joshi, he has done his fellowship in cornea from LV Prasad Eye Institute. He is currently the consultant in cornea and anterior segment services at LV Prasad Eye Institute, Hyderabad. He has done his fellowship from there as well, and former alumnus of Shankara Eye Hospital and research associate with PGI Chandigarh Pharmacology Department. He specializes in lamellar transplant surgeries, cataract, keratoconus, laser refractive, and stem cell transplantation. He is a clinical lead at the Center for Innovation LVPI, and I have had the honor of coming for ETE 5, that is Engineering the Eye 5. And I was amazed to be there. And I spent a week there working on some of the projects. I was on the OWL team, OIO,
Yes.
Open and Direct Ophthalmoscope team.
Yes.
Over to you, Dr. Vineet Joshi.
Thank you, Dr. John, for such a generous introduction. Okay, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity, John. And what I'll take you through are the iSmart EMR developed at LV Prasad Eye Institute, a new age in digitization. And I thank Dr. Anthony Vipin Das for lending his slides of his product iSmart EMR to us. And what I want to take you through is what it has achieved in the last 10 years of its inception. The idea was actually they started working on this idea, Dr. Anthony Vipindas, in 2010 August. So I think it's completing 11 years somewhere around this week. And they started within to serve the population of this pyramidal model of LVPI network, starting from the center of excellence at the top, networking with 3 tertiary centers down to 20 secondary centers to 200 vision centers now, which are there in 4 different states. So over a period of time, there was a need of a common digital platform, and it was a great decision to shift to digital documentation very early. As this now we can see its advantages of having a common pool of investigations and data in one place for research work as well. So as Dr. Vipin says, it's the EMR of the ophthalmologist for ophthalmologists and by ophthalmologists, and he was the one who really went ahead with this idea and built it from scratch with amazing inputs given at every point of its development. And as you can see, it was kind of, now that it exists, it can be used for a single practitioner or group practice or a complete network. And now it has some special features which kind of promote rural eye care in centers like vision centers or secondary centers at the periphery. It has many modalities: clinical, surgical, diagnostics, financial, rural, telemedicine platforms, audit, analytics, and opticals. All these different platforms were built in the single EMR, which kind of gives you the comprehensive eye care, right from the front desk to book the appointment, schedule the appointments, do the outpatient billing, managing the patient flow, having comprehensive multi-speciality features built into the EMR network itself. Very intuitive, integrated, and it's very flexible to use and easier to update as per the suggestions by the ophthalmologist. The best advantage is the real-time information it gives of the patients being checked in, their investigations. You can send cross consults across the platforms, and you can actually track both the optometrist and ophthalmologist. They have different tracking systems and color codings which help you to know in which stage of the process the patient is in the hospital. Even in diagnostics, the billing and actually aggregation and accumulation of all the tests in one particular platform, which is easy to see, date-wise arranged. It's and also from the back end, it's easy to retrieve since it's being a cloud-based support. In OR, we have a new OR module now, which kind of takes into the entire intra-op surgical notes, which there are separate features for every subspecialty coming in now. For corneal transplants, there are separate additions made as per the suggestions by cornea surgeons as to type of transplants or indications, how many sutures were placed, and even specifics for DMEC and DSEX, like which technique was used and how much time it was taken. All these things are so that makes the EMR being so customizable. It kind of adds the quality of the data that you are entering, and it saves a lot of time, and it's easy to retrieve this kind of data, primarily so that eventually it leads you to managing the big data very well. It also generates reports, and which are in one place. The AI dashboard is what I was talking about. It's the live tracking of the real-time data, which is in comparison with all the patients which have been seen so far on the EMR network, and it gives you trend analysis live with 100+ data points. And also for big data studies, this EMR gives you a feed into your own database if you are in private network, and gives you insights into new patterns in your area, which is something that is really useful. Now, many publications have been done in peer-reviewed journals, and the quality of data is top-notch. So the scale is now challenging geographies of various, even beyond India. There, EMR has gone into now countries like Cambodia, Mexico, also trying to secure some other countries like the Liberia Secondary Center, which LVP has recently started. They're trying to get into different languages, and right from urban centers to the rural centers, it has increased its scale with 7,500 patients per day that it can handle. The latest of guidelines and the latest protocols which are given by ophthalmologists are followed here, and they evolve and they're easy to integrate within the system. There is a continuous customer support and dynamic team which is present, and it's a cloud-based technology with a monthly pricing, which makes EMR an extremely useful tool for these institutes. So what it has achieved in last 10 years is commendable, and it's a technology which will drive us into the future, because once AI comes into the picture, what AI primarily needs is a good standardized data in one place, and that's what this will provide. And to the next part, which is the imaging, and I think Dr. Suven must have seen this the third time. What I just wanted to show you is when we integrate this along with EMR is something that this gives you a real window of opportunity for ophthalmologists of how you can do. Now, this is a patient sitting in Maharashtra, and he's sending us these images using just his smartphone. Now, how did we achieve this? It is because of the need that arises, as Prithvi mentioned earlier, that in the lockdown, these are the patients who are at highest risk at the extremes of age, and the patients needing in emergencies. So as you know, that smartphones are not optimized for ophthalmic imaging because of its focus, illumination, and it kind of, there are a variety of handsets available with different specification, which makes it even more complicated. So we came up with a system which can be easy to use for the patients, universal and stable, and on a secure platform, which is very, very intuitive to use. So we compared it with slit lamp photography, and we found encouraging results as clinicians started accepting it better. And we finalized the image taking protocol after multiple revisits, and we trained the patients accordingly and their relatives to use their own smartphones, and we realized we were able to overcome these discrepancies very well. Going ahead, the patients are able to upload this during the teleconsultations on the EMR itself, which is an added value. And now this protocol will be converted to a software, which is very easy. And the device will be modified with a standardized magnifier lens and lighting solution, which gives scales up the quality to this level, which is good enough for us to take clinical decisions, save the visit for the patient, and also give proper management. There is an additional feature of fluorescence staining, and the quality of imaging depends on the smartphone camera, but it is very good to actually identify each and every feature, like the loose suture at 7 o'clock here. So the whole
Dr.
experience
Vineet,
is...
please
yes.
pardon the interruption. Request you to summarize in 1 minute. Thank you.
Okay, so this... Finally, to summarize, what I wanted to bring here is that Grabby will be able to standardize imaging, and it will give you an advance in AI-related solutions. And thus, I would like to summarize at this point that these two technologies are something that will drive the teleconsultations in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vineet. So that is yet another use of smartphones, AI, and all these things. So the industrial revolution is over. Now it's the fourth industrial revolution going on. I think since the time is less, we will skip the discussion. I will introduce Dr. Biju Raju, sir. So Dr. Biju Raju is a family friend and one of my mentors. He's done his MS Ophthalmology from OEU Institute of Ophthalmology, Manipal, Vitreoretinal Fellowship, that is the FNB from LV Prasad Eye Institute, and currently working as a vitreoretinal surgeon at Dr. NSD Raju's Eye Hospital in Cochin. That is where I am from as well. And he designed the do-it-yourself RedCam and Hope Scope adapters for smartphone fundus photography. Over to you, Dr. Biju Raju.
Thank you very much, Dr. John. And thank you, Thank you, Dr. Santosh Onava, for giving me this opportunity. So these are two pictures. One is taken with a fundus photograph, fundus camera.
Sir,
and the other
I
one,
think the screen sharing is not visible for me. Is it visible for others?
it's not?
No, no.
Just 1 second.
It came and went off.
Okay, let me see. How is it now? Come
Yeah.
back?
Yeah, your
Yes,
screen
yes.
is on now.
Yeah, fine. All right. So my experience with smartphone imaging started quite some time ago, especially with the anterior segment photography, and then to the fundus photography with the smartphones. And then we developed a device which could be made by anybody. And finally, the journey continues still, but we were able to make a semi-commercialized device for fundus photography. And these are the pictures which are from the first publication that we did, I think 2012 or 13 in Indian Journal of Ophthalmology. The direct cam or the do-it-yourself retinal camera adapter for the smartphone was, for one thing, to negate the lens holding part, so that the lens is always aligned to the phone. And the Hope Scope, what we made, was meant to be a universal smartphone fundus camera adapter. The do-it-yourself camera adapter, what we wanted it to be cost-effective and to be made from commonly available materials, and everyone should be able to do it. And this is the concept. You need to align the 20 diopter lens or 20.
So I think this shows us that technology cannot be relied on. AI can do this also. So all of us, beware.
AI can also crash, John.
Yeah.
So can you see the screen?
Prabhakar, can you stop? Are you sharing your screen? Can you stop sharing your screen and then open your presentation? And then
It is
again
now
share
started
screen?
to say, yes.
Yeah, there
Now-
you are.
Yeah.
Yes.
So just to be clear, this is not a sponsored segment from one smartphone maker who says never settle as a tagline.
Yeah.
Okay, it's now in full screen. Go ahead, sir.
So I'm going to show a few of the innovations we did at Shankara Hospital, Coimbatore. And the main brain behind it was Dr. J.K. Reddy. So we developed these things when I was into his fellowship program. And yes. So one of the first ones we worked on was keratoscope. So keratoplasty related astigmatism was one of the very challenging things we faced. And so we developed this keratoscope. We bought a flexible LED strip and we attached it to the microscope in this such a way. And so it projects a central foramen reflection under the cornea. And so this is how it looked like. And so this was another case of doll where big bubble is achieved, and we can see this is a tuck-in lamellar keratoplasty, and it can be used for continuous suturing also. Like so, you can get as low as 1 diopter astigmatism post keratoplasty, which is like an amazing thing. And the second one is PCO ring, which is a novel device to prevent postcapsular opacity and enhance toric stability. It has been 2000 years since the first cataract was done, And we moved on to the trifocals where we can give all three ranges of vision. But there are few nagging things like posterior capsule opacity, which needs sac capsulotomy, and it's always associated with retinal detachments and cystoid macular edemas. So our main aim was to get rid of this. So the main thing behind PCO was the gap between the posterior capsule and the intraocular lens, and the chance for the passage of anti-epithelial cells onto the posterior capsule. So we want to deal it in such a way that we have devised this PCO ring, which is made up of hydrophobic material with 0.4 mm thickness, and this is how it is implanted. Once the regular eye, this is how it is loaded onto the cartridge. And this is implanted after cataract surgery. And what it does is pushes the posterior capsule and the optic of the lens. So this is a 3 years post-op pictures where you can see a clear crystal posterior capsule. And here we can see the PCO ring, which is pushing the IOL against the posterior capsule, and there is no gap between optic and posterior capsule. And the same was showed in our results also. And this is one of the latest one, which is anti-dysphotopsia intraocular lens, a novel design to prevent negative dysphotopsia. And this is one of the commonest problems where we give the best results as cataract surgeon, but patient keeps nagging that they can see temporal crescent friction, and we want to deal with it. The main problem here is the gap between the iris and the optic here. So if we can deal with this, the temporal shadow can be managed. So these are the other lenses available, but they are very hard to get hands on, and they're very complicated to implant. And we wanted to develop a very simple design. Our basic concept was, once it is implanted, the optic should come at the level of the capsule rhexis margin. There should be no gap between the iris and the optic. So this is our radial lens. This is how it looks like, where there is a central optic and the angulated haptics. So once this is implanted, and this is a video showing the implantation, and it is loaded onto the cartridge just like any other intraocular lens. And as it is injected, being made up of hydrophilic material, it slowly opens up, and it is very capsule friendly and easily manipulated. A dialing hole through which the visco can be aspirated behind the intraocular lens, and the same can be used to center it into the capsular bag. And here we can see all it takes a simple nudge and it centers into the capsule. And the visco behind it is aspirated using the irrigation aspiration probe. And these are the post-operative slit lamp images where you can see a shadow here, that there is no gap between the iris and the optic. And these are the OCT images, which is highlighted is that there is no gap between the iris and the optic. So there is no gap, so there is no negative dysphotopsia. And this is a dilated image where you can see the optic and the angulated haptics. And this is one of the stim plug images where we can see the optic here. The posterior capsule is stretched out, and it just looks like the normal crystalline lens. That is the beauty of this lens. So all the dysphotopsias are dealt with here. And we did dysphotopsia experienced. And these are all the innovations by Dr. J.K. Reddy, and I would like to thank him for letting me present this. And I would like to thank Dr. John and Dr. Suven sir for giving this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Prabhakar. I think since we are short of time, we might move on to the next presentation as soon as possible. Can the moderator, can the AV team confirm that we have to wind up? Is the next session at 5:45 itself? Okay, anyway, I'll share my presentation. I am Dr. John Davis Akkara. Is my screen visible?
Yes, your screen is visible.
Okay. I think I will quickly go through my presentation, and if we have time remaining, we will go for a discussion. So I'm just going to be covering smartphone ophthalmic innovation. So smartphones have always fascinated me, and I find that many innovations are based on smartphones now because they are easily available. And I have, of course, programmed several apps, but today I'm going to be talking about some other things as well. And making an app is actually quite simple. I did a little bit of programming during my school days, and then I worked on some complex programming language. But now making an app is as simple as dragging and dropping things. There are apps which help you to make apps, so to speak. So if you look at an ophthalmology setup, the ophthalmology clinic, you need to take history, exam, vision, eye exam, anterior segment, posterior segment, and some advanced examinations. So these kind of apps can help you with every part of the ophthalmic evaluation, starting from the history. There are apps which really help in COVID times to take history, to avoid the language barrier, general examination, which can help in checking the pulse rate with your phone, which was very much in demand now because of COVID and pulse oximeters being the must-have device at home. To check respiratory rate, again, COVID times it is important. Checking for pallor and icterus using the camera of the smartphone. And of course, visual acuity. I'm on duty today, and in fact, I just had a call from a postgraduate student who said she had a patient with an injury. I asked her to check vision on the smartphone, and she did. She just got back to me that the vision was 6.6. So there are apps such as Peak Acuity, which allow you to take bedside visual acuity. You can even do stereo acuity. In fact, if you want to take a stereo acuity, the actual tests will cost you a lot of money, but you can do it with a free app and these red blue anaglyph glasses using random dot stereogram testing. And it's easily available and it's free. You can also do refraction. This is a little more expensive, but this is done by Professor Ramesh Raskar from MIT Media Labs. And Victor Pamplona has started iNetra, the company which is based on, and IQ is also based on the same principle. Ocular examination, of course, the camera really helps. And as Dr. Vineet Joshi showed, he was able to make the patients themselves take anterior segment images. With that, as I showed in the previous TNOA paper, we were able to do measurements of the anterior segment and several things which have to be measured in the eye. You can also measure angles. So you can do a Hirschberg's test. You can check the abnormal head posture. You can take photographs for 9 gaze. You can do a lot of anterior segment photography. I have written an article on how to do it best with your smartphone. And you can actually play with the light. So those who are interested in photography, as a lot of ophthalmologists seem to be, this really is an impressive thing, smartphone photography of the eye. And of course, this is from Prithvi. Prithvi had done ASPI, that is anterior segment photography with IOL. And Dr. Vineet has done the GRABI, which is also smartphone photography of the eye. Dr. Nilesh Kumar has done DIGS, that is direct imaging of the gonio mirror with smartphone. Everywhere there is smartphone. So fundus photography, this is Dr. Prithvi's plastic bottle trash to treasure red cam. Dr. Biju Raju here with do-it-yourself red cam, and the latest version, the Hope Scope fundus camera. This is Dr. Ashish Sharma with the Made in India red cam. Dr. Prithvi again with the graphic of his trash to treasure red cam. 3D printing has made so many things easier. So 3D printed smartphone fundus cameras can be downloaded and printed. This is the ODocs open source version. This is my friend Dr. Ahmed Ataya's version. This is from a high school student. So yes, it is very simple to do 3D printing, that even a high school student is able to design a 3D printed fundus camera. This is another version for taking photographs of the disc. This was initially 3D printed. This is Peak Retina by Andrew Gustavus. I made a small corneal topography device which uses Placido rings. It is basically a battery, lights, and Placido attached to a smartphone, and you can analyze the images using software made by LBPI Center for Innovation. I'm sure Dr. Vineet would know all these people. They have open sourced their software, and this is how you can get the Myers of the cornea. Perimetry, while I was in Arvind Eye Hospital, Pondicherry, we developed a virtual reality perimeter, and this headset, I think, costs around 500 to 1,000 rupees. Put a smartphone inside, that becomes a perimeter, a virtual reality perimeter. And now there are several versions of virtual reality perimeters on the market. This is, of course, the cheapest way you can do it. Smartphone apps, I have covered several times. There are several smartphone apps, both for patients and for the doctors, including apps for people with low vision, and so many apps. I'm not going to cover the apps now. And I would like to thank all the institutes which made me what I am. I would like to thank Dr. Santosh Hamanawar, sir, the scientific committee, and TOS for this opportunity. I think we have just 1 minute for discussion before we conclude. John,
Yes,
right?
doctor, exactly 1 minute.
Yes, please. Anybody wants to discuss anything in particular?
Could we finish up with Biju's presentation?
Dr. Biju Raju, are you?
Yeah,
I think yes, yes. Is unmute.
Yeah, I'll just try it once again.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Make it a quick presentation if.
Yes, sir. Ms. Neha, we'll finish off quickly. Promise.
Yes, our next session speakers are there.
Is my screen visible?
We can finish it off.
Is
Yes, yes, sir.
Visible,
it is
sir. Visible, sir.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
This is the way I use the direct cam. It's just like you do a binocular indirect ophthalmoscopy, and you can capture excellent images like this. A video, showing the pass plan. You can go all the way up to the pass planner or a Serrata. And direct cam was one of the devices that inspired probably many. For me, it helped me document ROP like this. In this case, where you can see the AP ROP vascular loops, document cases like this. This is a stereo front of photograph. Cases like this are impossible to document without something like a direct cam or an indirect ophthalmoscopy based system. There's only a traction actually being displayed. Just few good images that I've captured. This is albinotic eye with. And I also converted a direct cam into an angioscopy device with matched filters. And you can see a live angiogram being done on angioscopy being done on a smartphone. And then with that, we went ahead with the Hope scope. I learned how to do a 3D designing, very basic stuff, and made an app out of it. And this is the device which can be handheld. And this is the app that we produced. And you can capture the images. And once you get it, put it in the gallery. You can always, crop it to your choice, put your diagnosis, and then send it from the app itself on as a message to whomever you want to. And these are a few images that we have captured. And this is a humble project which has helped me go so many places. This is the first online issue of KJO with that image. And this also, you can also publish these images. This is a very rare case of a double torpedo. And this is Dr. Babu Rajendran, who has been a big mentor for all of us, the late genius, Dr. Babu Rajendran, and my teachers. I thank them all. This is probably the future. You would like to disconnect the viewing system from the camera, and that makes it a smaller camera. And that's probably the future. Thank you very much, John. I thought I will never be able to present this, but thank you very much.
That is wonderful, sir. So this future is already here. Nice to see.
Yeah, and John, you missed out something on Biju's introduction. He's a wonderful guitarist.
Oh, sorry.
He's a wonderful guitarist, and
yes,
and he sings very well too.
Thank you very much.
So check out YouTube, like, share, subscribe. Lots of interesting videos. You will get diplopia and polyopia.
Prosopagnosia also.
Yes.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. Wonderful session. Thank you, Toss, for this opportunity. Great to have interact with everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for being here.